Right. Looks like we're going. So we have a special episode of Going South tonight. I am privileged and honored to be talking with members of Concerned Clergies of Valdosta. We met each other a few weeks ago around local issues and started a conversation on how we can work together to make Valdosta a better place. And maybe if pastors, if y'all would just introduce yourselves and tell folks what congregation or what role you're playing now would be great, if that's okay.
Okay, I'll start. I'm Pastor Bernard Robinson. I pastor the Greater Pleasant Temple Missionary Baptist Church here in the city of Valdosta, Georgia. I serve as the second administrative assistant to the president of Concerned Clergy.
Gotcha.
My name is Ronnie Matheson. I am the advisor to the Concerned Clergies. I pastor Crossing Jordan Baptist Church, 1401 Cypress Road here in the city of Valdosta, Georgia.
Gotcha. Thank you, Brother Matheson.
Okay. I'm Bishop Henry Williams. I'm the pastor of Word of Oasis Church right here in Valdosta, Georgia. And I serve as parliamentarian with the Concerned Clergies of Valdosta.
Gotcha. Thank you, Brother Williams.
I'm Billy McFadden.
My name is
I
Reginald.
serve as an advisor to the Concerned Clergy, having pastored in Valdosta for about 5 years and recently relocated about a year and a half ago.
Gotcha. Thank you, Brother McFadden.
Reginald Benjamin, the pastor of Lighthouse Christian Fellowship Center in Lake Park. I am the treasurer for Concerned Clergy, and I thank God for all of you brothers.
Thank you, Brother Benjamin.
My name is Pastor Jeremy Stone. I pastor Morning Glory Triumph Ministries in Valdosta, Georgia, and I'm just glad to be a part of the panel with some of our senior leaders in the city of Valdosta.
Gotcha. Thank you, Brother Stone.
I'm Bruce Francis. I pastor St. Paul in the city of Valdosta and serve as the president of the Concerned Clergy of Valdosta. And it's good to see some of our young theologians joining in on this conversation tonight.
Thank you, Brother Francis, and get well. We hear you're a little under the weather.
Yes, not at my best right now.
Gotcha.
But we hanging. Y'all keep praying.
Well,
Jones.
Pastor Randy Jones, pastor of Rehoboth Church of Valdosta.
thank you, Brother Jones.
JP.
Pastor J.P. Robinson of the Good Hope Christian Church here in Valdosta, Georgia, and help serve as a social media consultant with Concerned Clergy.
Thank you, Brother Robinson. I think that's everybody, right? If we can just jump off into kind of how Concerned Clergies of Valdosta formed, when that happened, if one of y'all would just share that history.
Well, we were formed because a group of ministers came together to discuss some of the issues that was happening around the nation, and we felt the need to have a group of ministers to come together that's willing to stand in the gap, not only for our city, but even to address some national issues. So that's why we came together, and we became official group July 2020.
Gotcha. And so what do y'all do? How often do you meet? And I know COVID has kind of made all this real different, right?
Exactly. So, well, what we do is it's kind of simple. We do what's fair to our neighbors. We're compassionate. We're loyal and love, and we take ourselves serious, and we take God serious. So we're really concerned about our city. City of Valdosta, Georgia. And one a good thing about it, some people say around Valdosta will scream, but they won't scream long. That's not going to be the case with Concerned Clergies of Valdosta. We're here for the long haul.
Gotcha.
Amen.
Gotcha. How many pastors and congregations are a part of the group?
Roughly, I think we stand about 33
Right.
right about now, if I'm correct, Dr. Matheson.
All right. Gotcha. And
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
one of the things I know that y'all have done a lot of work around is the case of Antonio Smith's false arrest and kind of police brutality case. And Can you tell me a little bit about how y'all became aware of that case and what y'all done around it?
Pastor Mike Fenton, you want to address that?
Well, I think we were all alarmed when we saw very vividly the news broadcast of Officer Wheeler, Sergeant Wheeler at the time, coming up on a scene that wasn't agitated. There was a calm conversation going on, and he came on the scene and just virtually became, in my opinion, a predator, having grabbed Mr. Antonio and body slammed him to the ground. And that just really, really drew some tremendous concern from the concerned clergy. And that word got out amongst ourselves. We came on board, talked about it, and felt as though we needed to make some type of statement, and more than a statement, but to address the issue with those concerned from the law enforcement end. And we did so because what we felt was an egregious practice from a police officer to a citizen in the city was just totally wrong. And we wanted to make sure that it just weren't swept under the rug or no one said anything. And mind you, this came on this happened right around the same time the Aubrey situation, Ahmaud Aubrey situation happened in Brunswick, Georgia, and had gone months and no one knew a thing until the video came out. Right. So we really felt strong that as members of the clergy, we needed to make a statement and come forward and say something to let them know that we were displeased and something needed to happen as a result of it.
Is it fair to say, because that happened like in February, right, of 2020, when did y'all find out and when did the press break the story? Because it seems to me it's another one of those that happened, it was hush hush until the lawsuit ensued and the body cam footage came out, was made public. I mean, is that fair to say?
I think you're pretty accurate in that description, because we hadn't heard anything about it. It was almost as if they wanted to keep it hush hush under the rug. And until Attorney Hoggebert filed the suit, nobody really knew about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that always concerns me. We've seen that happen all over the country, even a year or two later, right? Usually through litigation, not that police are self-disclosing, right? Or community advisory boards are discovering things. It's generally only when a victim of police brutality has the means to hire an attorney that we even find out about these things. And that to me is deeply, deeply troubling, because what the question it raises for me, and I don't know how y'all feel about this, is what else do we not know about?
Right.
So when y'all found out, did you approach the city? What action did you take, and what happened?
President?
Yeah, we approached the city. We went to city council. We had conversations with the mayor, city manager, as well as Chief Manahan. And we were getting nowhere. We started making statements at the city council meeting, and of course there was no response.
Right.
And now to the point where they're having closed door sessions.
Right.
And you got to submit your concerns to see if they'll be allowed to be spoken.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that process is a problem in its own right, because you have to get approval to speak, right? So even if you get approval to speak, there's no guarantee you're going to get an answer. I mean,
right.
Was that
heretofore we haven't?
I got you. Did you interact at all with Chief Manahan during that time and talk with her?
We did from time to time, but she has since gone silent. Mm-hmm. And if you ask her anything, she says she'll have to talk to her attorney.
Yeah, I think some of you know that I contacted her to find out. Did y'all ever see the guidelines for the use of force for Valdosta Police?
Yes.
You have? Because I've asked for a copy of it, but I've been told I have to do an open records request to get that. Because like y'all, when I watched that footage, it's pretty clear that there was no problem between Mr. Smith and Officer Henry. I think it was Officer Henry, right?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. And Sergeant Wheeler just came up and intervened in the process. And like you said, literally picked up Antonio Smith and body slammed him and broke his wrist, right? I think we've all also have seen the official report by Sergeant Wheeler and the other officers on the scene. Were y'all surprised at the language that he claimed he just rolled him to the ground? Because that's what they all said, right?
Well, the video doesn't show that
Right,
by no stretch of the imagination.
right.
And let me allow me, Dr. George, to share this. I looked up the code of ethics for police worldwide, and part of their oath in the ethics portion says, "I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, political beliefs, aspirations, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions, with no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of criminals. I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities."
Right, right,
So that's part of their code of ethics.
right.
And that last portion hits right at home.
And is it fair to say that what we know from city council is that there was no disciplinary action taken?
Correct. And I
Right.
think that's the problem that the concerned clergy has, Mark. I think we were being told that there were no criminal, there was nothing criminal involved in it. We wasn't looking at it from the criminal stance. We were looking at it from the moral stance. Just as our president just read, if you look at that video from the moral stance, what about the moral value? Even within the code of ethics with the city of Valdosta, if you were to go back and look at it, there have been other city employees, other city workers who have been disciplined not because of criminal action, but because of moral actions. They've been suspended. They've been suspended without pay, with pay. Some of them suspended 1 day, 2 days, 30 up to 30 days. It's a fact that's on record.
Yeah.
But to have this happen from the moral perspective of the clergies, then the least that should have been done, that should have been some type of discipline done to the officer, and that's where we draw the line and says this is not right morally.
Right.
Because now even in the code of conduct of Valdosta, if they haven't taken it out, it specifically states that anybody, whether it's a police officer, firefighter, anybody that's employed that does anything, and what it states is it says unbecomingly of an officer or worker. Let's look at that video. What happened was unbecomingly, so he should have some type of discipline upon him.
And concerned clergy will also remember that shortly after this happened, there was an article shared by concerned clergy on the Facebook page of a similar incident in the city of Savannah, where the mayor right away disciplined police officers to the extent of terminating their employment. So, for Valdosta to say, we ain't gonna do nothing.
Yeah.
But then you get another municipality that runs into a similar situation that says, yeah, we're gonna do something, and they did.
Yeah. Well, and is it also, because it's my understanding, I think some of us heard this from city council, that not only was the officer not disciplined, he received a promotion a couple of months later, right? Is that
Correct?
Yeah.
Which is odd.
Yeah, and
Very odd.
I asked the police chief 2 questions this week on email. One was he disciplined, and did he receive a promotion? And she wouldn't answer. She referred me. She basically said because of the litigation, she couldn't answer those questions, which seems rather strange, because the litigation's not going to change whether he got disciplined or not. the other thing that was interesting about this, and this kind of takes us into the mayor, I think, is that the city was pretty quiet about this officially as well, right, for months. And how long was it after y'all approached the city that the city council and the mayor actually, and it was really the mayor with the council standing next to him, issued a statement where he basically supported the police, quoted some stats about use of force. Do you remember how much time passed before he actually said something publicly?
It wasn't too long.
Okay,
Around June or July.
gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's probably about the end of June, because then when we met, but even in that statement, I don't think I've, even up till today, I haven't even heard an apology, an official apology. And since we're talking about the morals,
Right.
I haven't heard an apology.
Right. And in the footage, Sergeant Wheeler didn't even apologize after the fact. That was interesting to me and sad. He instead was angry at Officer Henry and blamed him for, for not telling him that they had the wrong person. So to date, you haven't heard anybody say they were sorry to Mr. Smith and sorry to the community.
Well, I think what I heard, what I seen was some quote unquote that the lawsuit that Antonio Smith has filed, it was leaning towards that any money compensation that he's getting was going to be good enough for him or well enough for him. But it's not about money. If this was about money, Antonio Smith and his attorneys could have probably settled this way back
Months ago.
Attorney Hagerbrook, I mean, I've spoken with him on numerous occasions, and he's right. There comes a time wherein there has to be some reformation. There has to be some type of reform, and with the families' agreement, they have chosen to take a stand. Say this is not about money. This young man and his family and his attorney firm, they want to make a difference. And for him to say, I don't remember exactly when, but I heard for our mayor to say something about monetary compensation he sure will help him feel better or something to that effect. It's not about money.
Yeah.
Not about the money.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Attorney Hagebrooks just talked about, like you said, reform and policy change. And it seems to me, if the police department doesn't think anything was wrong with this, they need some new policy.
Right.
Bottom line. Do y'all remember, because I also found this in the Valdosta Daily Times, that the mayor at one point expressed being emotionally exhausted by this situation. And the attorney—
That was around the same time he said something about the money.
Really?
Yeah, said that in the same context, right?
Yeah.
He was emotionally distraught.
Exhausted, yeah.
Exhausted, yeah.
When I think Attorney Hagerbrook at that time called for his resignation then, if I'm not mistaken. That kind of takes us into the work we're doing together around the mayor. And just for the folks who don't know, one of the things we wanted to do tonight was play some of the audio comments. The mayor of Valdosta, Georgia, is Scott James Matheson. For 19 years, he's had a conservative talk radio show. It's my understanding that when he decided to run for office, he stopped doing his conservative talk radio show as he ran his campaign. But once he was elected mayor by a very, very slim margin, he basically started broadcasting. And if anybody tunes into that show, they'll find out pretty quickly that he makes no distinction between being a conservative radio show pundit, airing his opinions and the opinions of folks like Glenn Beck and so forth, and being the mayor of Valdosta. So he said a number of things that have been problematic, and we just wanted to share some of those with you and play them, and maybe we can talk about them a little bit. So y'all just bear with me, and let me see if I can get where we're at. I got to share the screen. Let me see if that's the one. Oh, that's the civics lesson. Hold on just a second. I'm an analog man in a digital world, so bear with me. Here we go. Can everybody see that screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll talk about that week.
So this is how he introduces his show oftentimes in the morning. And I just wanted to play that to demonstrate that he does represent himself as the mayor on the show.
Well, listen, people, I'm going to be very laid back today, almost by design. One, because it's a Friday and it's been a busy week. We'll talk about that week in just a few minutes and what maybe the week in the life of a mayor. I'll just run down the stops, the meetings, and then just kind of the life of putting yourself out there like this. I'll share it with you here just a little bit. On one day, it's illegal to pay somebody to vote. But on the next day, being election day, it's legal to pay somebody to canvass. Even though they don't canvass, even though they don't go to a house, they hop on a bus, they go down, they vote, they come back, and they cash a $75 check. So the day before, it's illegal. The next day, completely legal, or at least enough gray area.
I think a lot of what that is they pay somebody $75 to go find 5 friends to take to the poll. Hey, here's $75. I want you to go over there. And
As long as you bring 5 friends, they get a $75 check as well, Jack. You're exactly right. So gray that they don't even go after it to prosecute. Not this ethics guy I just talked about. I handed over the 65 $75 checks, banged out on the table, cashed at the same liquor store, deposited at the same thing. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, well, it was illegal yesterday, but today's election day, so it's called canvassing, and they can pay. They brought 5 friends. They hopped on a bus.
it's like ballot harvesting. On the right, we say, well, that can't be fair because it's you don't know where those ballots came from. But on the left, it's like, oh, well, what's wrong with it? As long as people get the vote, we need to get these votes in. Hey, getting these votes in is important. And I'm like, no, it's not.
And if you oppose it, Jack, you're suppressing.
I don't care. I am suppressing those votes because they're not. I am blatantly coming out right now saying I think we should suppress the vote. I think suppressing the vote needs to be done because a lot of people who aren't allowed to vote are voting because we're making it too easy.
Jack has long thought that you should have to test the front door,
I think voting should be hard. I don't think it should be this easy. And I don't care if you think anything negative about me because I'm an old man and I'm going to die in the near future. So it doesn't matter what you think of me.
I'll stop it there. I'm sorry y'all got to listen to that one more time. But
Wow.
Say something real quick.
Absolutely.
As a pastor who one of my members was at the forefront of the Lowndes County voting reform, who's actually a college student, to hear someone say that voting should be hard not only saddens me as a young African-American male in the city, but just as an individual, period, where the entire democracy has been set up for my voice to be heard through my voting. The system has been set in place for us to put people in power who will be for us. Even to hear Mayor Matheson's comments about him being emotionally exhausted concerning the whole issue saddens me, because if you don't have the longevity to see an issue through for people of my skin color, then can I trust you with any other issues in the city that may arise concerning people that look like me or that don't look like you, for that matter? So I'm distraught to hear that someone would say voting should be suppressed, considering the work, the toil, and the degradation that my ancestors went through to try to give me an opportunity to practice and exercise this level of democracy. It's sad.
Wow.
May I make a comment also?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I concur with Pastor
Defend me.
Stone when he said that, the suppression of the vote when he uttered those words, I believe that was his co-host. When he uttered those words, it just caused me to just have a flashback of when we couldn't vote as people of color. And pretty much those sentiments is geared toward people of color. When you say the suppression of the vote. And I have a problem with that when the mayor's show is actually publicizing this kind of rhetoric in the community. It just causes outrage in me to hear that. And so, of course, we're going to respond to that. And that goes beyond him saying, he has a right to freedom of speech. We are not saying that you should be, that should be taken from you. Of course, you can speak your mind, but mind you, as we heard in the opening of his show, him advertising himself as the mayor. You're the mayor of everyone in this city, and for you to allow that kind of again rhetoric to go across your airways disenfranchises us as people of color, I feel.
Pastor Benjamin had a word.
Yes, I was greatly offended myself because I was part of a canvassing team. There were probably about 6 different canvassing teams. My team was NACA, NACA, and that stands for Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. We had about a 15-person team together, and most of them was VSU students. We started canvassing on the 28th of December, and we canvassed every day all the way through the 5th of January. So when I heard him saying about we was meeting up at a liquor store, being picked up by buses, being taken to the poll, and we voted for the people, walked back to the liquor store and given a $75 check, and we cashed it there at the liquor store, I was more than upset. I was livid. And the word in the Black community is I was pissed off. And that's when I started trying to do something about it.
Yeah.
And it's an insult.
Yeah.
To say that this is how I look at it. To take a $75 check and cash it at the liquor store is an insult to our community. To say that, you mean to tell me we can't even have a state bank account? We couldn't have took it to the bank.
Exactly.
We
Right.
that far down the chain of Lord Way, and we had to go to the liquor store and cash it. We couldn't have went to the bank and showed our ID and cash, or either just deposited in
Deposited.
But
Exactly.
we're so poor that we had to take it to the liquor store and cash. Yeah.
Pastor Stone said something in referring to what the mayor was saying about suppressing the vote and not making it so easy. But in my opinion, it ought to be one of the easiest things in the world to do in this country is to vote.
Amen.
Yes.
It ought to be one of the
Yeah.
easiest things to do is to go and vote. And I'm proud of the fact that we just didn't wait as African Americans. We just didn't wait to this election, but we worked hard. Some of my colleagues who are on the screen tonight have worked hard, campaign after campaign, voting period after voting period, to ensure that people exercise their right to vote. When I lived in Valdosta, we would take our church van out, pick people up, take them to the polls. I'm not proud of it, but I helped one gentleman vote for you know who. I wouldn't have voted for him, but he exercised his right to vote. It wasn't about doing it for one reason or another. It was doing it to ensure that people exercise their right to vote and to cast us in some type of unseeming category because of who we are, who we look like, color of our skin, cashing our checks at one place. I mean, I just think that's not good coming from anyone, but certainly not coming from the mayor of the city of Valdosta.
Amen.
Exactly. And when they talk about suppression of the vote and making it hard, And even as it is before our legislator in the state of Georgia that's looking at trying to reform the voter laws.
They're doing it right now.
Exactly. You know,
Right.
I mean, what's in place now is sufficient, because if you have the proper ID and you can prove that you are who you say you are, that should be enough. I don't think you need to continually
Amen.
try to add other things on the list to say, okay, this gives you the right to vote. I'm struggling with that. And like Pastor McFadden said, you know, it ought to be one of the easiest things to do, you know, in our country, is to vote.
I don't know. I
That's
think
right.
I shared with some of y'all, you know, I lived in Oregon, and within 2 months of living there, I had a ballot in my mailbox, and I had 2 weeks to turn it in. I could mail it. I could drop it off at a ballot box. And I thought I was in a foreign country because it was so easy. And voter fraud is not a problem when we look at all the science behind it. But here, I don't know if y'all feel this way. I feel like we're going through a second Reconstruction in a way.
Yes. Yeah.
But
You know
what, Mark? But what about the part about even in that dialogue on the radio, there should be a test given.
Yeah, that definitely
How many
takes us
jelly
back
beans
right
did
there.
you drop?
well, with that, and there's just some stuff that I think we should, specifically folks like me, should not joke about.
Exactly.
Like, and why would I ever want to joke about that?
Right.
You know, I think
Yeah.
that's the thing among many things that trouble me the most about that this was funny. You
Yeah.
know, that these two guys were bonding over basically advocating for undemocratic activities and practices that were used until people bled and died in the street, you know, and the Voting Rights Act was passed in the late 60s, right?
Yeah. And then when, you know, you go and look back and some of the things, I wasn't, you know, I was a small child back then, but, you know, some of the literacy tests that were out talking about how many jelly beans or marbles is in the jar and all that foolishness. Unless you counted them and put them in there, the ones that were able to vote, they couldn't figure out and give you the number themselves.
Yeah.
I can't look at a jar and say, oh, it's a certain amount of marbles or jelly beans in that jar. I mean, I'm taking a wild guess. You know, that's nonsense.
Well, I also think the comfort at which these two men had this conversation, and one of them is a mayor of a predominantly Black city.
Yeah.
Like, that's deep to me, that not only do you not think there's anything wrong with it, but the majority of folks that live in the city you're supposed to serve, you know, you are degrading with these comments.
Yeah.
It's the whole moral behind this is simply this. It's so much as not so much as what was done, it's so much as what was said and who said it. That's the whole thing. And then the second part about it is to go and act as if it's nothing. That bothers us clergies, because how can you expect forgiveness if there is no repentance? There has to be. He has to feel some type of moral guilt or something, which I don't think he's shown that he doesn't, because he's trying to now make it seem as if that we're trying to silence his amendment right. We're not trying to silence his amendment right. We're looking at from the point of the view, look what you have said, and look to whom it's been said about. It's been said about the African American community, and you are our mayor. I mean, you know, I didn't vote for him, but after he became the mayor, it was my duty then. I'm going to work with him.
Yeah,
right.
But with all of this, I mean, there has to be some repentance, and he hasn't shown any type of remorse.
Well, would y'all like to talk about how all this kind of led to the ethics complaint that we filed? because that wasn't a snap decision, right?
No. Because Mark, on your end, you attempted to on several occasions to have a conversation, and he refused to.
Yeah.
And it left no other alternative but to file an ethics complaint.
Yeah.
And then see the concern clergies, our main concern was this Antonio Smith situation with the officer, with the discipline, and then but everything pretty much just led into another. We never looked at the mayor. We never addressed the mayor in any instance, said, you know, we want you to do this, that. But then after all of these other things started occurring, and then to hear all of these things, then we say, well, we have a greater problem now. So other than just disciplining the officer. Yeah.
Well, and this really raises, and Brother Mathis, you've been the most vocal about this, and I think rightfully so. So as Brother Williams mentioned, I reached out to the mayor 5 times, both in email, on his website, and even called into his radio show to talk to him. He said he would, but I think he only said that because we were live on air. And then he refused to even respond to my communications after that. And, but so we got together, and basically he's violated the first page of the code of ethics for the city of Valdosta, pretty much. At least 6 things on there. And Brother Mathis, will you say a little bit about the problematic nature? And I don't know if any of y'all got to watch the city council meeting tonight, but even the process by which we filed a complaint is a little loaded, right?
Yeah, here's the problem. As with Attorney Hagerbrook and their law firm, they are looking for some type of reform from the police side. Well, looking at this ethical complaint that's filed, the problems are there isn't already some type of ethical grievance committee that's already standing in the city of Valdosta. City of Valdosta has no committee of that. There's no ethical committee, review committee, as some would call it. There was some in the past with Chief Childress, but there isn't one now. But here's the problem. The ethical complaint was given to the mayor. The following is the process. There is a 3-person committee that's going to be organized. That 3-person committee, the mayor chooses one, the city council chooses one, and those 2 that are chosen choose the 3rd person, which has to be approved by the city council and mayor, from my assumption. Well, that process is flawed already because, number one, the individual that the mayor chooses, I'm pretty sure he's going to be biased. So you're going in a situation already with a committee that's already not to me is not ethical sound. I feel that one of the things that the concerned clergy is what we've talked about is that we're going to push for some type of reformation and reform in the area, that there should be representatives on this grievance committee that represents the community at large. There should be somebody, even though I know it's probably impossible because he has a lawsuit in it, but anyhow, there should be attorneys like Hagerbrook, attorneys like Copeland, Walker, Bradley. There should be attorney, because that one of those individuals have to be an attorney, from my understanding, a legal experience. These individuals should have some type of say as the result of what's going to happen with this complaint. But from the way it is now, I don't think the complaint possibly will not get past the review, because the review will say we find no morals to it, and that could be it.
Right.
So that's what we've been looking at. We've discussed that amongst ourselves here at the Concerned Clergies, and we're looking to do some other things, because that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, we have an incredible flawed process, and both with the police department and the city, it doesn't look like there's really any accountability to the community in some
No,
regards.
because the pastors, they'll tell you, we even ask to help set up, because we had spoken to some other people, and remember when we went to city council and we asked them to let's set up a review board, and we even gave suggestions of names, and they were supposed to be gonna get back with us. We never heard anything about it. Next thing we know, when we did get down to city council meeting, what did we hear, brethren? They had already came together. They had already put the policies and procedures together. How can you do that without a committee? The committee itself makes the policies and procedures.
Yeah.
They've already formed the policies and procedures, and I think the mayor he chooses one of the individuals, somebody else chooses another individual, but it's to the point wherein it's like we, the community, has no voice, have no input. And that's what these pastors have said. Say Pastor Matheson, it's time for us. We got to have a voice. We got to have an input. Yeah. So that's what we're doing.
I think they've already established those on their ethics compliance board tonight. I'm looking at it now. Approved 7-0. Robert Jefferson voted to serve on the board by council members. 7-0. Judge Jim Tunison is voted to serve on the board by Mayor Matheson.
And those two will pick the third person.
You see that, Dr. Matheson, I just sent you?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they got 2 people already.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
They did that tonight.
I mean, I know Judge Tunison. Judge Tunison is good. He's fair. I mean, I know him. And I mean, I believe in. I've worked with him in time past. But but I just feel like it wasn't fair for the people how this played out.
Yeah. Well, and I think back to the fact that the mayor clearly doesn't see anything wrong with his behavior or comments. I think we ought to let the audience know also that Councilman Eric Howard 2 weeks ago let the mayor know in council that a number of city employees, who are the people who make our city run, right? Without them, our city doesn't work, right? Were deeply hurt, like many of you, by not only his comments, but the fact that he doesn't care about his comments. And so Councilman Howard, and y'all help me if I get this wrong, was really gracious in saying this is a teachable moment, and really offered a moment for the mayor to offer an apology. But he didn't, and he immediately adjourned the meeting. I mean, at least that's my read of what happened. Did y'all see it differently?
No, that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I did too.
And do you know how hard it is to work somewhere in fear? You have workers who's working for the city of Valdosta, who I did have opportunity to talk with some. I got 1 or 2 within my congregation. But do you know how hard it is for those workers to get up every morning, to go to work behind stuff that they've heard and seen? It pretty much makes it impossible for them to do an effective job. I mean, it's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw it as a missed opportunity and just kind of pouring gas on the fire and digging his heels in. Can we shift to what we've heard from him since then? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'd like to play, last week, I won't play all of what he had to say about this, but at one point he claimed that he's being punished, and these are his words, his direct quote, he's being punished for simple speech, right? So he feels like this is just simple speech. He hasn't said anything wrong. And he also complained that the Valdosta Daily Times didn't acknowledge it. He finally submitted a response in writing to them. But then 2 days later, he did speak about the incident. So let me play what he had to say about it. And let's see, let me close this out. Sorry, I got too many screens open, so just bear with me for a second. This is the one. Hold on. I apologize. I got too many things open. I think, is that it? Yeah. So we'll just listen to this and maybe we can talk about it too.
All right, listen, this will be my only brief comment. It's a civics lesson, so, and I'm not going to criticize. I got plenty of built up inside me to say how it's been handled. But here comes your civics lesson.
Can I just pause? Does that feel like criticism to y'all?
Yeah.
You know, anyway.
A difference of opinion is not an ethics violation. This obviously has to do with me and what's been splashed in the Daily Times. A difference of approach or opinion or how I move is not an ethics violation. Period. An ethics violation would be taking money. An ethics violation would be gaining favor for somebody to come develop here. An ethics violation is something in that nature. And I even put A through L of the actual prohibitions for somebody that sits in the seat that I sit. The actual prohibitions. Chose not to put it in there. So a smart person could read, here's what somebody's saying that is unethical, and here's what's actually.
I read the complaint, and I was reading.
Did you read the entire complaint?
I know, but I read enough of it.
Chose to pull out.
I read enough of it to think about that commercial that goes, "That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works."
Well, Jack, I'll give you just a normal example. Every time you rule on something, vote on something, every time the council says, 7-0, we should go in this direction, 100% of the people aren't in agreement. 75% say, way to go, that's the way we should go. 25% say you're doing it wrong and you're not thinking about us or what. So that's not unethical. That's the vote. That's the chosen direction of the city. That's what they think is best overall. That's not unethical. That 25% thinks it is. That's not watering it down. That's not apples to oranges. That's apples to apples. I think I act, I walk through life. I think one of the statements was not truly representative. Nobody, that would be you. For somebody to act like, think like, work like that.
They want the hive mind. They want that hive mindset that everyone thinks alike.
I'm me. I got a great walk through life. I got a giving, charitable, caring walk through life, and that's exactly what I apply. So again, not unethical to disagree with somebody in any way, shape, and form. Just thought I'd point that out. Of course, for those listening, I'm preaching to the choir.
And if anybody's watched what you've done over the last year as mayor, and I don't have a dog in this fight. What you say on the air or your attitude politically has not in any way influenced how you actually perform as mayor.
Yeah, be more impressed that they're two separate things, and I handle it.
I couldn't do what you do because I actually, you talk to me, you know where I stand on just about anything.
Well, you got to keep up with me to understand how I'm moving and acting. Listen, I don't need to explain anything. I'm keeping my 30,000-foot view. You be you. My big picture view, and I will not get caught up in the muck and mire. That's why you've heard nothing from me till I just wanted to give you a civics lesson.
Any thoughts?
Well, one thing I wanted to say is I like most of you, if not all of you, we saw what happened on January the 6th at the U.S. Capitol. We saw the insurrection take place. And now what we're hearing from one side is an attempt to revise and offer some revisionist thoughts on what happened and took place. That's not going to change what I know to be true. We heard what the mayor and his co-host talked about on their radio station, And now to me, he's just trying to offer some revisionist thoughts on what he was doing, which just really don't make no sense to me. It's not going to change my mind. He's broken the, well, I think, Mark, you pointed out earlier how when it comes to the ethics and the ethics violations, how he's broken so many of those. He can say he hadn't, but right there on page 1 of the ethics form, it shows where he's not adhered to doing things ethically as it should be done in the city of Valdosta. So he can say one thing, but the law is going to say something else.
Amen.
Yeah.
Did anybody find it striking that at the end he says he doesn't have to answer to anybody?
Yeah.
I think he's doing a great job of trying to place himself above the law. And so he feels like as he's doing, he can go on his radio show, say whatever he wants to say without retribution, without contradiction. And so he is leading in his own backwards way.
Would it be?
And he'll have to answer to somebody.
Eventually. Yes, sir.
Would it be?
And to me, that's having an imperialistic mentality. To just feel as though you don't have to answer to anyone. I don't know whether he, whether that's, deep rooted sentiments or not, or whether he just was caught up in the heat and rhetoric of this, past election and on the right and how they constantly just bombarded the media with false statements and rhetoric that came from their mouths. I don't know what to attribute it to, but when he first was elected, and like you said, Mark, earlier, he narrowly won the runoff. Yeah. The Valdosta Times ran a whole article on him and what he wanted to see done in the city and how he wanted to work with Chief Rice and involve his opinions. He seemed as though, he wanted to be the people's mayor, but somewhere along the line, I don't know, he's gotten the notion that, he's like he said, he's not accountable to anyone. He can do whatever he wants to do. Something changed, if not already there, but I don't know.
I think it was already there because when you look at number 45, ever since, well, even before he took office, he was very blatant and bold about his feelings and his perception, his ideologies. And because he was so bold as being the president, and blatant with it as the president, it emboldened a lot of people across the nation. And I think that our mayor was just one that was emboldened after seeing how ex-president number 45 operated.
And there was no repercussion or recourse in those actions in him speaking so candidly because he himself offended me on many occasions in a lot of things that he said, 45. And I guess when he saw there was no recourse with the president of the United States, me being the mayor of Valdosta, well, by me being on the right wing, I can follow suit and do likewise and have no repercussions. That's what it seems to me.
Right.
Now, let me ask you something, Mark. This is just my I try to get some understanding. The process of the complaint with the 3 individuals, what are they looking at? Are they going to talk to the individuals that filed the complaint, or what do they do?
I think they determine, from my reading of the policy, they determine whether it's worth investigating, and they'll do that in about a week. And then they return the decision back to council at some point.
But they determine whether it was worth investigating based on what?
On their assessment of our complaint and the evidence that they have.
Are they gonna hear the videos that we've heard? Are they going, you know?
We included a link in our complaint to them, the digital complaint that we filed. Now, it's a great question, whether or not. Now that we know who's on, two of the committee members are, we might think about sending them the audio. I don't know if that interferes with the process or if there's any limitations on that. Brother Matheson, would it be useful if I just show quickly what we think he violated? Because
Yes.
I've got it pulled up.
Yes, let's do that.
So this is what we did is we contacted the city about what the official complaint process was, and the city manager, Mark Barber, sent us this document, which is several pages long. It's the City of Valdosta Code of Ethics, and on the first page, it has a variety of core tenets that says things like public officials be and give the appearance of being independent, impartial, and responsible to the people. It says, whereas all elected officials of the city of Valdosta shall conduct themselves so as to not create any question or concern as to the appropriateness, legality, or sincerity of any actions or conduct as a member of the governing authority. Whereas they provide the public with confidence and integrity of its government, and where they should be independent, impartial, and responsible. They should treat all people fairly, use the power of their position for the well-being of their constituents, and they should work to create an environment of honesty, openness, and integrity. Now, this document goes on to talk about specific code of ethics violations, like certain prohibitions where you can't take money, you can't, employ family members or give contracts to family members. So I imagine that's what they're going to argue, is that he didn't do any of that. And what they may overlook is almost all of the first page, which is where we kind of built our case.
And the first, if you go back, let me show you something, Mark. Because if you go back to that first page and look at it, the second thing right here where it says, this is right there. It says, whereas the member of the governing authority feel that all elected officials of the city of Valdosta should conduct themselves so as to, here we go, not create any question or concern.
Yeah.
Then listen, look at what it says: appropriateness, legality, or sincerity of any action or conduct as a member of the, all of that. We have questions, we have concerns.
Yeah,
That should make them want to investigate it.
Yeah, we feel right now we have given our mayor a vote of no confidence. We feel based upon his comments, not his opinion.
right.
I give a man his opinion.
Right.
That comment he made was not an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That was his comment was based upon feelings, what he felt, not what he thought.
Right. And let's be clear, we've asked him for evidence for those claims. And my request, the Mary Turner Project, we asked him to substantiate his claims. That was one of the reasons we wanted to talk with him, was where is your proof to basically back up these inflammatory and divisive claims that you're making about basically votes getting purchased, right? And he hasn't provided any evidence whatsoever to date. So I don't know how y'all are feeling. I imagine that they're going to argue that he did not take any money or break any of those other prohibitions that run further down on the document. I could be wrong. I hope I am. I hope they take it seriously. But given y'all's history and my past history with the city, I'm not sure they will. Which kind of
it seems like he came across as though, that first page where that's highlighted, it's like that doesn't even exist.
Yeah, he skipped it.
He skipped it. He did. He really did. Yeah.
Because
you
it
should have highlighted, Mark,
directly
that
to him.
line where it says serve others and not themselves.
Right.
So he clearly is not concerned about the population as a whole.
Right.
Yeah, and when you get on your broadcast and you say, as the mayor, or I am the mayor of Valdosta, you're already being exclusatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that certainly isn't an open environment or an honest environment, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all.
So we're kind of at this place where we're waiting on them. I mean, do y'all have any thoughts or anything you want to say about kind of what happens from here? Or what, well, let's just talk about what we would like to see too happen from here. Because we did take a pretty severe stand and ask for his removal from office, right?
Yeah.
I think we're wholeheartedly as a concerned clergy. I believe the NAACP and the other clergy group, we're standing behind our position, I believe, to ask for his removal, either stepping down or getting that vote of no confidence from the city council.
Yeah.
Because he definitely is not serving the community at large.
Right.
He's self-serving and he's serving one political wing without any care or concern for the city of Valdosta as a whole.
Yeah. And the Mary Turner Project still is calling for his removal as well, just
Yes,
for the
sir.
record.
And we are with you on that. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You know,
Amen.
sometimes you can do such a great job, but you can mess it up by opening your mouth and saying the wrong things.
Exactly.
Well, I think you can say the wrong things, but then you got to apologize and try to atone. And
Yeah.
but if you refuse to do that,
Yeah, I think it would have made it a whole lot better if he would have done that and just say I misspoke or something, you know, in reference to an apology in some sort. Then maybe we wouldn't be at this point. But he doesn't see himself as doing anything wrong.
That's right.
Right, because, and then I think
Right.
Dr. Matheson hit on it a little bit earlier. When we first formed and started meeting as a concerned clergy with the Mr. Antonio Smith case, we were not that group that went after
Right.
the mayor's resignation right then.
Right. Right.
That was not our intent. I think Dr. Matheson said that. We
Right.
honestly, I think we use the terminology, we're not headhunters.
No.
We're clergy that's concerned. And the only thing we wanted to do is sit down, as the Bible says, come now, let us reason together. Even we were so, I think we were so kind because even in our letter that we presented to them, at first we didn't even ask for Wheeler's dismissal. We just wanted to be demoted.
Right.
We didn't want him to, we didn't want that promotion. And then even when we gave them, I believe, President, we gave them 2 or 3 options. And then we gave the options that let him opt out. We didn't want to take care of the man, take away the man's livelihood. We wanted him to get his 401k. We wanted him to get his retirement because we're not headhunters. We're clergy, we're concerned.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. And that's more than fair. I mean, given the circumstances, that's more than fair. Yeah. And to not be willing to offer any kind of apology whatsoever, you know, that's disheartening. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all the legalities and what have you, but I know admission is some form of guilt, you know, and to show that I am responsible,
right?
And maybe from a legal perspective, you know, he's withholding that because it would mean as though this is a shut and closed case if I apologize and admit that, you know, I was wrong in the handling of Antonio Smith. If I admit that I was egregious in my comments as the mayor of Valdosta, you know, so I don't know. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but it just, you know, it's morally wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, do y'all have anything else y'all want to add? Because this seems like a good place. We're waiting to see what happens next to determine what we'll do next. And
Right.
did y'all want to add anything else before we call it a night?
Well, the committee that has been chosen from tonight's council meeting, and by there not being a committee in place at all up until this time, it's almost as though they're just playing it by ear and going to write the rules as we go. Because going back to something you said, Mark, looking at the whole spectrum of the complaint and possibly listening to the audio that you have made available, or would make available. Look at the whole spectrum and not just one side of the complaint.
Yeah. I would even add that listen to the audio after those comments were made.
Yes.
Seems relevant to me.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems to me one of the things we can do is reach out to the city and make sure the committee is going to listen to the actual audio.
Next meeting that we have, do you think that we can get your voice as a representative for your group concerning this thing that we got going on with our mayor?
Brother Benjamin, you talking to me?
Close out? No. So we're gonna say it before we close out.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think he's talking to somebody else.
Okay, I think his mic is on, and he might not know that his mic.
Sound like he might be trying to get somebody in.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
worries.
that sound like.
Well, this seems like
Jimmy Board. What group is he with?
He's with the Lowndes Valdosta Community Alliance, I believe. Yeah.
Is he on?
He told me to apologize
phone?
to you guys because he would have been on tonight. Well, he was. We just hung up, but he said he wanted to apologize. He wanted to be on tonight, but he would be on our next one.
Okay. Sounds
All right. Good deal.
No worries.
Good deal. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out. I know y'all are all busy. This has been powerful. I appreciate everybody's voice. And even the folks that didn't have a whole lot to say, I think it's just important. I'm happy we're working together to resolve this, and I think we should press forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
We thank you, Mark, for providing this avenue for
Mark,
us to be able to express ourselves and be in conjunction with you as well.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I'll be sure to send a link to Brother Matheson. He'll get it to everybody, as well as Brother Neil, once I post the podcast, and that way y'all have it. Okay.
Mark,
Sounds
just before
great.
you go,
Yes, sir.
you might be interested. I read an article today that had your group in it.
The AJC?
It made reference to another incident down in Cairo, Georgia. In fact, my hometown, with Jackie Robinson, the historic marker there in Cairo.
Yes,
it's been defaced and that type of thing. And then your article, your group was mentioned, as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Brother McFadden's talking about the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on the front page and page 6, and the whole page 6 was about the defacing of historic markers to Black folks in Georgia.
Wow.
And so ours, as he said, was one of the ones featured. But thanks for bringing that up. We live in strange times, but
I was going to say, Mark, I'm 60 years old now. I'm probably the second oldest person on this call, but in my 60 years of living, it seems like we have come full circle.
Yes.
From what was taking place with the civil rights movement, Jim and Jane Crowism, voter suppression, all of that was taking place in the 60s.
Yes, sir.
And here we are now in the year 2021, and it's still alive and well. It's just wearing a different coat.
Yeah. I think it was Malcolm X that said racism's like a Cadillac, a new model comes out every year.
My Lord.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So
I like that.
That's why I don't drive Cadillac.
Thank
you again, Mark, for opening this.
Thank you all up. And we can do it again and update folks as we know more. I'd love to do that if y'all are up to it.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, gentlemen, I love you all. Y'all have a
Love
good
you too,
night.
Brother Mark.
Yes, sir.
And
You
Brother
too.
Francis, please take care of
Bless y'all.
yourself, and I hope you feel better. We'll all keep you. We'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers.
I appreciate it. I
Yeah,
appreciate it because being in the house is
All right.
killing me.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, y'all have a good night.
All right.
All right,
Thank
good
you.
night.
You as
God bless.
well.
Good
God
night.
bless.
Okay. Good night.
God bless.